Today we're going to be looking at those must-start players for Week 12 fantasy football by going game by game, matchup by matchup, and just talking about the players in those games. We're going to talk about just about everybody. So we're going to see how these games could break, how we could get potential fantasy scores from those games, and everything else. But what you need to do right now is drop your start-sit questions in the comment section below. I will answer them later on tonight. I watch a lot of college football, so I may not get to them till later tonight, which I always do. Somewhere between 10 and midnight Eastern time, I'll get that out for you guys and answer all the questions. On top of that, you need to click that subscribe button right now so you can ask your questions every week, every Saturday, around 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock, mid-afternoon. I drop this video. Ask your questions in the comment section. This will happen next year, the year after. It'll always be here. So click that button. Stop missing out. Ric Flair's watching too. You don't want to disappoint Ric Flair, but we got to start off with our first matchup of the day, and we got to talk about everybody here. And we're looking at the Detroit Lions and the Colts. When it comes to injuries and my knowledge of the injuries, everything's been scrubbed off Sleeper from Friday night. So if there's something I'm not aware of, I will know later, and I'll just comment in the chat below. But we're looking at Amon-Ra St. Brown like we do every week. You're never going to bench him, even if he runs bad. It's just process at this point. He gets the targets. He gets the opportunity. We're in a matchup here with a 50.5 over-under. So Vegas is saying the ball should be flying in this game. There should be multiple fantasy scores in this game. Gibbs versus Monty. No matter what happens, you're starting them. We got 6 teams on bye this week. Some people are really decimated at the running back position. You're pretty much blessed at the running back position if you're thinking about not starting them. Jameson Williams is your upside dandy. He's the guy you're throwing in your flex for that upside play. He'll hit every few games. Big time. That's the type of player he is because he gets those deep targets. You never know when it's going to happen, but when it does, it's marvelous. He's a gamble player, but he's more consistent on the gamble than a lot of other gamble players. That's what we like about Jameson Williams. This is a good matchup for him to do something. Again, you still got to exercise caution. Looks like Sam Laporta should be back. He's off the injury report. That being said, it's been an up and down year for him. It has been, but we got a good matchup here when it comes to what Vegas is saying with the over-under. However, tight ends are up and down in general. Short ADOTs. We're looking at volume that could be here, but we really got to get the touchdown. Run backs on the other side of the ball here. Josh Downs, you're looking at him. You're not going to trust him until you get a more consistent week-to-week production with him and Anthony Richardson, but you're liking him more each week because there's 2 games in a row with Anthony Richardson where he hit. Jonathan Taylor, like always, you have to be really blessed at the running back position to think about benching him. Pittman versus Pierce, the ancillary pass catchers in this offense. And when you're looking at that, it's just a gamble play. Pierce has the upside. Pittman's out there running the routes. It just ain't happening for him. Josh Downs is the easy start at the wide receiver spot for this team. Everybody knows that. Pierce is the gamble start because of the air yards and upside. Pittman's a guy that you wish was giving you the production of the last few years, but honestly, he's hurting your stomach right now. 50.5 over under. This could be a game where a few ancillary players surprise you a little bit. Chiefs and Panthers, 43 over under, and this is the Jonathan Brooks game everybody's been paying attention to, but it's against the Chiefs. They ragdoll running backs in fantasy production, and when running backs score in fantasy production, it has to be through the passing game, or they cross the goal line here and there, and it's usually not much because they will not break the running backs. Chuba Hubbard is going to be the running back to look to off the Panthers. That's obvious. However, this is a nasty defense. Expect them to be slowed down a little bit. Expect them to not be optimized compared to other weeks. But you're still probably going to roll them out due to the touches, and you're just going to see what happens. Jonathan Brooks, a lot of people are starting him due to being decimated at running back. Maybe him or a Laube or another backup running back they're thinking about, but he's in the works for that. And when it comes to backup running backs, you just don't know. You really just don't know because the workload is really not going to be enough for them to really give you a consistent prediction. However, it's a gamble because you're looking at finding some daylight on this random carry. catching a couple balls. In this matchup, you should expect him to just get ramped up with a few carries. So really, you're not trusting Jonathan Brooks, but a lot of people are rolling him out because they have nothing else. Adam Thielen's on the injury report with the Q. He's questionable. Pay attention to him. Coker, Legette. They're going to have to be creative in the passing game. I wouldn't be surprised if one of them gets it, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they get completely shut down. JT Sanders will get targets in this matchup. May not lead to fantasy production, but he will get targets in this matchup. That's one thing I feel very good about. He'll get that work. You're looking at the Chiefs side, and honestly, we may want to pour some liquor out for Kareem Hunt because Isaiah Pacheco's coming back. He was almost back this week, but he might be back, or more than likely back next time around. This might be his last time as a lead back unless something happens to Pacheco down the road. So pay attention to him. Enjoy him for now because we'll get him as a role player sharing the workload with Pacheco, but it's different being the lead guy. If you're a Kareem Hunt fan, pay attention to him. This is a good matchup against the Panthers. A very good matchup. Xavier Worthy is a wide receiver you hate to start, but you also hate the bench because he'll go on runs where he does nothing, then all of a sudden pops off. And you never know when that's going to happen. This is also a good matchup to pop off against. Same for DeAndre Hopkins. Again, I'm not saying Worthy is a start when I say that. You got to exercise caution. I think you know what he is at this point. He's a gamble. DeAndre Hopkins is going to get the targets and routes. We'll see how that volume works, but he's the safer option. Travis Kelce will always get the work. He's at the tight end spot. That could be up and down, but still one of the safer options at the tight end spot. Titans and Texans, 40.5 over-under. This could be an ugly game. There's only a few players that won out of this matchup. Nico Collins for sure. Joe Mixon for sure. On the Titans side, I don't really want anybody, but if I have to, gun to my head, Tony Pollard, because he's going to get to work out of the backfield, and there's not many running backs to use this week since there's 6 teams on bye, so I'm cool with Tony Pollard. On top of that, we got a lot of backup quarterbacks starting this week, so you're going to be very iffy with the guys you're rolling out there. Ancillary players. Tank Dell will probably get some work here, get some opportunities. With Nico Collins back, that should have opened things up. John Mechie's been running a lot of routes. He got 3 balls last week. Something to pay attention to, but you're not going to start unless you're really in a bind. Calvin Ridley should get the deep balls downfield. Should get a good target share. We just got to reel it in. We got to convert those passes. That's not all the way on him. Also, the quarterback play and everything else. Nick Westbrook has been solid. 5 out of his last 6 games. He's been scoring touchdowns. Deep ball city. A very good wide receiver if you want to make a gamble. However, he's also due to not score touchdowns. That's something to pay attention to. And the target rate isn't absolutely high. So that is a red flag. Looking at the Vikings and Bears here, 39.5 over under. And honestly, this is all on Caleb Williams. And if he can push the pace and keep up with the Vikings. I expect the Vikings to run pretty big on this game. And if Caleb Williams can keep up, this could be a fun one to watch. And this one could go down to the wire. I'm not really down on the Bears. I'm just playing both sides because we're projecting here. We're not playing emotion. Justin Jefferson, like always. Like always. Good or bad, like always. We know that. Aaron Jones, we got 6 teams on bye. We ain't playing around. He's starting, and whatever happens, happens. Addison, Naylor, ancillary pass catchers in this offense. You're rolling more Addison, then you're going Naylor, of course, because that's how the targets work. Hawkinson's always a good bet. Maybe up and down, but always a good bet week to week compared to the other tight ends. Run backs on the other side. DeAndre Swift's got a tough matchup, but he'll get work, get touches. That's something to play around with. Depends on what you got at running back. DJ Moore, Odunze, Keenan Allen. We got the carousel effect here. If Caleb Williams is hitting, they're going to hit. Odunze's kind of heading towards an upswing right now. You may want to mess around with that. DJ Moore was kind of cold this back end of the season. That being said, if the Vikings can push the pace and Caleb Williams can cook, then he'll cook. There's a lot of variables in this matchup to look at. But again, you may have to just start him even if your gut's saying no. Now we're looking at Bucks and Giants. And we got the backup quarterback for the Giants. We got the Italian Stallion. And Cade Otton is probably the safest play, at least at the tight end spot. Safe when it comes to targets. Bucky, Irvin, and Rachaad White, they should eat in this matchup. I like them for the rest of the year. It's a hard week for running backs. Mike Evans got the questionable tag. Watch him, see if he's back. Jalen McMillan will run the most routes among the 3 amigos at wide receiver. Shepard will be there around the slot, short to intermediate, could rack up targets. Trey Pollard is an upside dandy for the deep ball. Jalen McMillan's the safest one due to the more routes being ran. That being said, it's iffy, but this is a good matchup for something to happen here for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Run backs is always Tyrone Tracy. Tyrone Tracy's got some upside. The Giants are still the Giants. They're up and down. They could be nasty when it comes to allowing him to get the production he deserves, but he's always giving you the talent that you want. You're probably rolling him out either way, but if you're blessed at running back, you may have a hard decision. Malik Neighbors is questionable. Could be in, could be out. Just watch that. He's Malik Neighbors. You know what to do with him. Wan'Dale Robinson and Darius Slayton. Pay attention to them and Neighbors is out. Darius Slayton hits when Neighbors is out. However, we got different quarterback play. I would not suggest trusting it, but he does rack up targets and air yards whenever Neighbors is out and previously throughout his career. Wan'Dale Robinson, short targets, volume. However, different quarterback play could really impact this offense. Neighbors is Neighbors. You would still roll with him because of the talent there and just eat whatever happens. Tyrone Tracy, honestly, you're not trusting anybody from the Giants, but you're still rolling out some of these players because we're hurting this week. Cowboys, Commanders. Fun matchup here. CeeDee Lamb is getting volume even with the bad quarterback play, even with the backup there. It's safe to start him. The results aren't safe, but it's safe to put him in there. You'll probably get something out of it. You got a 45.5 over-under in this game, and the Commanders are expecting to win by a lot, so they're probably going to be thrown in the back end of this game. I expect the Cowboys to be ugly. Jalen Tolbert might sneak away with some targets, but I'm not trusting it. More than likely, I'm not starting him unless I have to. Rico Dowdle is going to get work, and more people are going to start him this week because they're hurting at running back. At least you know he's going to get the work and touches. Luke Schoonmaker will be in at tight end. That being said, that could be a money ball tight end on the cheap that you're going to mess around with in daily fantasy football. Run backs, Terry McLaurin, because he's consistent, except for whenever I say he's consistent, but he does get the deep ball. He does get the targets. Brian Robinson and Eckler, they should eat in this matchup. They should be rolling on the Cowboys. Ertz will get targets. That's all I can predict for tight ends is the workload because of the short targets. Ertz will get targets. We need to cross the goal line. And we got a Noah Brown revenge game here against the Dallas Cowboys, and he's getting a lot of targets. I would not be surprised if he's our guy that surprises us this week and is a wide receiver one. He's our sleeper of the week due to the matchup and narrative. Patriots, Dolphins, Devin Achane, of course, you're starting him because he's getting the volume and the upside. Tyreek Hill because he's Tyreek Hill. Mostert versus Jalen Wright for your upside play. Pick your poison there. Jalen Wright's eating into Mostert's work. Mostert's healthy going into this matchup per the reports, so pay attention to that. But Jalen Wright might get a little extra run, maybe not, who knows. Jalen Waddle's been cold this year, but you might have to start him anyways. Jonnu Smith's been hot lately. I like him. I like Jonnu Smith. He's still a tight end, though. Shorter targets, up and down play due to being a tight end. That being said, be leery with tight ends, but the work rate is there, and I like him. Run backs, Ramondre Stevenson getting work, getting volume. Just something to be blessed with, just getting a good amount of carries at the running back position now in Week 12. And now you got the carousel effect here due to Drake May just doing well. Kayshon Boutte, Kendrick Bourne, Damari Douglas, pick your poison. They're doing well for fantasy workload in different ways. Boutte's running on almost 100% of the routes. He's getting about 6 targets per game. Bourne is running on about 50% of routes, a little bit more than that, but he's getting the meaningful targets downfield. He scored last week. Damari Douglas is getting more targets, running less routes than Boutte, but still getting enough workload to give you something in fantasy. Pick your poison off of what I just said. Hunter Henry is kind of consistent with Drake May. Drake May is always good to look at as a guy off the waiver wire because he's giving you a little rushing floor and he's pushing the ball downfield. Broncos and Raiders. Bo Nix should cash out in this matchup, and this is going to be a game where some weird guys are going to hit, and it's going to be weird in general when you look at the box score. First off, the running backs for the Broncos, you do not know what the hell's going to go on there with Javonte Williams, Audric Estime, and Jaleel McLaughlin. Audric Estime could roll. Javonte Williams could roll. Both backs could roll. It is against the Raiders. They allow a lot of fantasy points to running backs. If you want to make a gamble on one of these running backs, this might be the week to do it. If you need to make a gamble somewhere, maybe one of these running backs, I'm not going to pick out one. I don't know, but I do know the matchup. I do know the opportunity, and I do know things are going to be weird in this game. Devon Bailey, Troy Franklin. Devon Bailey's getting more of the routes and targets. Troy Franklin scored a touchdown this week. We're always watching Troy Franklin. 20%, about 22% exactly, Bo Nix is targeting on his routes, which is very high. When he's on the field, he gets targets. Bo Nix likes him due to their time at Oregon, and it's saying that in the stat line on the field. That's something to pay attention to. You're not starting him in traditional leagues. I hope not. I hope you're not that decimated, but it's something to pay attention to. Cortland Sutton, Deep Ball City, target share. He's a guy you're probably working in this week due to how bad you're hurting. If you're hurting, run backs coming back at you. We got Ameer Abdullah, Dylan Laube. We got the starters doubtful this week, so there's a 25% chance they play. That's what that means. More likely they're not going to play. But when we're looking at these running backs, Abdullah should get the touches. Dylan Laube should get worked in there. But if he starts running hot in a passing game, might eat into more. He's very explosive. He's good at catching the ball in the backfield. They drafted him knowing that, and there's some upside with him. Both these running backs are gambles because the Broncos have a nasty defense at stuffing the run and stopping running backs from scoring fantasy points. Jakobi Meyers will get targets in this game and opportunity. It may not matter due to the Broncos defense. The Raiders will need to get creative to move the football, so expect some ancillary role players to do something here. We may see like a Trey Tucker rack up some targets or something like that. Brock Bowers, you're always starting him. When are you going to bench him? How blessed are you at tight end? How are you going to have the balls to bench him? I believe he'll at least get you a little something. At most, he could go off because he is Brock Bowers. He's getting targets downfield. But these Broncos are bend but don't break. Niners, Packers, Brandon Allen in at quarterback. We got the quarterback change right now. Christian McCaffrey, you're not feeling it as good, but you know he's Christian McCaffrey. He's going to get that work. I don't think anybody's really going to bench Christian McCaffrey. We still got a 46.5 over-under against the Packers. Debo, Jennings, Pearsall. That is the question. Who's going to get the targets? How is the ball going to whip around? George Kittle's going to be in this. They got some monsters here to rack them up. That being said, this could be ugly to predict who goes off. So really, you're picking your poison and closing your eyes. Who do I pick? I don't really know between this matchup because we got some variables in here that you can't predict. However, Debo should be the guy around the line of scrimmage. Jennings has been hitting whenever it's time to step up. Pearsall's the rookie. Probably will see about 3, 4, 5 targets. But Jennings has been hot this year, stepping up. Debo's good around the line of scrimmage. Kittle's back. But the flow of targets is going to be different. It's unpredictable right now, and you're just going to have to go with your gut. Run backs on the other side. We got the carousel effect with the Packers. So you're looking at Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson. Reed is the guy you're always chasing, most likely starting week to week. Doubs is next in line. Watson has upside. He hit last week. Maybe he hits again. But again, he gets a lot of down weeks as well. Tucker Kraft, because he gets volume. And then Josh Jacobs. He's good to go this week. That's what the reports are saying. So you're looking at him as well. Cardinals, Seahawks. And you're probably starting damn near everybody in this game. It's not like you have the gusto to bench the stud players like Kenneth Walker, James Conner, or anything like that. You're probably just starting everybody and eating it. Your upside players are like Tyler Lockett, Zach Charbonnet, if he can hit the goal line or catch a few balls. But outside of that, your other upside plays on the Cardinals is Greg Dortch and Michael Wilson, just in case the targets flow their way. But Marvin Harrison Jr. should be getting work. He's up and down throughout the season. We know this. But again, this is a matchup where the ball should be riding out, and they should be slinging the rock. Trey McBride should never really be benched. James Conner should really never be benched. Kenneth Walker should really never be benched. You're just riding them to see what happens. And if you are benching those guys, you're just blessed at running back, which means everybody else in your league's probably hurting at running back this week. So you're probably good to go anyways. Noah Fant, questionable. Tyler Lockett, you're paying attention to him because he could be the guy that sneaks out on us. Jackson Smith-Njigba has had some big weeks this year. This could be another one if the ball is flowing. And he's a gamble flex wide receiver that I do like this week due to the matchup and due to how hot he's been this year. Eagles, Rams. This one's an easy one because both teams are very concentrated with how they move the ball. Devonta Smith's out. A.J. Brown's going to get all the work. Dallas Goedert's going to get a lot of work. Saquon Barkley's going to get a lot of work. And those are three players that are going to be started in most leagues. Kyren Williams started in most leagues. Puka and Kupp started in most leagues. Demarcus Robinson is your upside play because he hits like once out of every 3 games when he's playing with Puka and Kupp, and that's usually when the coverage breaks. So he is a gamble. There's 2 out of 3 chances that he could bust on you, but that 1 out of 3 chance that he could hit on you. So roll that dice if you want. We got some good dice plays this week. We got a 49.5 over under, so that could cook into that. This is going to be a fun matchup here. This is going to be a televised game that you're just going to pay attention to. Ravens, Chargers at the Harbaugh Bowl here. Bow, bull, whatever you want to call it. 51 over under. You're starting a lot of players in this game. I would not be surprised if it's weird. Derrick Henry is always going to be Derrick Henry, and you're just going to have to eat whatever he gives you. Zay Flowers, Rachaad Bateman. Zay Flowers getting the targets and work. Rachaad Bateman getting the air yards downfield, and he's highly volatile. Mark Andrews is Zay likely. Volatile tight ends in fantasy. You just got to pick your poison. Rachaad Bateman's questionable, did not practice on Friday, so Deontay Johnson might get more run. You're watching those practice reports, and you're working with those wide receivers if possible. They do have an extra day. Run backs, J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards. J.K. Dobbins, you're starting over Gus for sure. He was a little bit slow last week when it came to scoring. That being said, you got to pay attention to him. He did score 2 touchdowns, but what I mean by scoring is racking up the yards per carry, and everything else. Quentin Johnston is an up-and-down wide receiver. He's been hot right now. He's due to be cold, but he's been scoring touchdowns, getting the ball on the outside. And the Ravens have been giving up the deep ball. Pay attention to Ladd McConkey going in this matchup. He does have a lot of upside when on. Those are the must-starts, sneaky starts, the guys to bench from Week 12. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Don't forget to ask your questions. I'll get to them tonight. I want to thank you for watching. Catch you on the next video.